Hi, it's Lori and I'm going to show you how to knit your sleeves 2 at a time in a tube. So, I'm working with this yarn. This is a ball I'm just finishing. This was the body, which I've now put, it's a cardigan here. Both sets of sleeves were on hold. It's a raglan top-down cardigan. This is a new ball of yarn. And you can see this fabric, it stripes. And the stripes are about a row or two long. And that makes it a certain thickness. This yarn that I'm using is Noro Ito here, colorway 60, just for reference. But you could do this with any self-striping yarn that creates some type of striping pattern. So, and truthfully, I learned this from Heidi Kiermaier, courtesy of my friend Laura, Lola Knits, because she saw a video and I was working in similar yarn where this would be a useful technique, but it was brand new to me until this late summer when I saw it and tried it myself. So when you're working with yarn that stripes, obviously when you knit the body, there are a certain number of stitches. When the time comes to knit a sleeve, there are fewer stitches. And because of that, the rows would start getting much thicker because they have fewer stitches to work with each striping section of yarn. So in order to try to increase the diameter, or the circumference rather, the amount of stitches making up the round, we knit both sleeves together at the same time, but in a tube. So this is basically one sleeve, this is the other sleeve, and the stitches in between them are steeks. I use a 5-stitch panel steek. So I started that here on this first side. I cast on 5 stitches here, 2, 3, 4, 5. I picked up, in this case, I am picking up 2 stitches from where I cast underarm stitches, where I bound off, and then I knit all the way around my first sleeve. I have a little bit of slack in my cable here, just as I work through getting to the second sleeve. I worked around, I picked up the other 2 underarm stitches because you really want the whole sleeve to be together, like in itself. And now I'm going to move on. So I have my 2 steek panels here. I'm going to move on, and you'll see my wacky way of knitting. I knit continental, but I throw. So all of the efficiencies of knitting, as it happens, the efficiencies of knitting continental are lost because I throw. So I have, let's see, I'm supposed to have 4, but it looks like 1, 2, 3. Somewhere I have a 4th stitch. I'm gonna call this, oh, here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I start picking up here because I already have my steek panel in. So I have 2 stitches that I need to pick up to put on the needle from the underarm. My yarn is slipping. There's 1, I want to snug it right up to that steek. And here's 2. My second one. I pick up both legs of the bound off underarm stitch when I do mine. Great. Now you may want to add a stitch here. I sometimes do. I didn't for this. I'm just sort of picking the yarn a little bit so that I pick up some of the slack in between my underarm stitches. I may have a gap that I need to close up later. I'm okay with that. So now I'm going to knit all the way around my sleeve. Again, you'll see how I oddly tension my yarn, and you'll see that I throw as a continental knitter, which I know is not the most efficient way to knit, but it's what works for me. I have met one other knitter who knits this way. Maybe you do. It's unusual for sure. Alexa Ludeman from Tin Can Knits. She does this very same thing. I took a class with her, and she does this. So when I am picking up, when I am bringing my stitches, knitting my stitches off of the cord that's been holding on to my stitches, where my stitches on hold have been, I always use a double pointed needle, because then I can work it straight onto my new needle, and I can easily slide both halves onto the needle. So need a little more yarn. I'm gonna slide this through. This is a very old double pointed needle that my mother gave me when I was learning to knit, and I used it as like a cable needle actually for many years, and I still actually do. I don't actually own any cable needles. I just use double points where I need them. So, okay. And this cord may actually end up being too long for the circumference that I end up knitting. So now I'm going to keep knitting around the side of this sleeve, second sleeve here. Just getting all my stitches on. And of course, these things are a little fiddly at first, but as you put a few rows on, you're really just knitting a straight tube in the round. You can put your decreases in. I will use markers with stitch markers and mark off where my 2 steek panels are, so that I know these are tapered sleeves, I'll know where to put my decreases. So let's see, looks like I missed a few. Okay, this is the remaining number of stitches for the second sleeve. You can fast forward this section. I know it's not super interesting. That's why I already had one sleeve done before the first. Let's see, just a couple more to go. Great, so all my stitches are off of my second sleeve here. What was holding them, my tubing. And then I have a couple of more stitches to pick up on this side. So it looks like I have one here and one here. And on the other side is my steek panel. So I need to pick up, it's a little cleaner on my first side. I'm gonna pick up this right here. Something close. It's in your armpit, truthfully. You don't have to lose too much sleep with trying to be perfect here. So 1 and 2. And you should definitely look back at the video that Heidi Kermeyer posted in her Instagram, because this is really where I learned about this idea. Where's my other needle? Here it is. There we go. So everything is on the needles now. I have all the stitches that I need in order to go. So again, I cast on 5 stitches with the yarn I'm going to use for my sleeve with the ball. It's 1 ball, not 2. Cast that on, picked up my 2 underarm, knit around my first sleeve. Let me turn that around. I picked up my underarm stitches here for my first sleeve. I cast on, I used a backward loop. Cast on 5 more stitches here in between my 2 sleeves. And then I went right into picking up 2 stitches, knit all the way around my second sleeve. And I think this cord is a little long, so I'm probably gonna switch it out. Picked up around, and I picked up my 2 underarm stitches here, and I'm back to my first steek panel. And that's it. I'm gonna keep knitting everything then in the round. When I wanna do my decreases, so this is my 5 stitch steek panel right here, I'm going to do them, I'm gonna mark put markers around my steep panel, and I will do my decreases one stitch or two stitches in. So I'll have one stitch which is for my sleeve, and two stitches in I'll do the decreases, either a knit two together or a slip slip knit, as I would with just if I were knitting just a single sleeve at a time. So please, I hope, let me know if you found this helpful. I think it was a big game changer for me to kind of figure out how to make this work, and Heidi's video was super helpful. Visually, there's no voiceover, so I thought it might help you if I voiced over what it is that you need to do. Feel free to leave a comment or get in touch if you need some help. Bye.